Enton Bendy, however, is probably the longest running character I've ever had that's been published anywhere. Um, she's actually been published in 3 different newspapers. In Cleveland, Ohio, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then finally here in Kokomo.
Wow. Welcome to the J.C. Barnett podcast, where we bring you real conversations about community, leadership, faith, and empowering the next generation. I'm your host, J.C. Barnett, and together we'll explore stories that inspire growth in life. Today's episode is proudly supported by the J.C. Barnett School of Jump Shooting, the Lady Stars Basketball Organization, and J.C. Barnett Jr., investing in young people and leaders to reach their full potential. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
Mr. Sterling Clark, how
What's
are you,
up,
sir?
brother? How are you doing, man?
Man, it is an absolute pleasure.
It's been a minute.
Man, can you believe it? It's been about 15 years.
It's been that long.
Time just flies.
Just for the camera's sake. This guy used to work for me. He used to work for me when I used to, back in our Kroger days.
The gas station, the gas center.
The fuel center.
Yep, fuel center.
Boy.
And I tell you what, I couldn't have asked for a better person to work for.
Oh, man.
And really, believe it or not, I was 25 years old. I was completing my college career and about to graduate.
No kid.
When I started that job there. And that was my real entry into the workforce. That was my first real job.
No kidding.
Believe it or not.
Working with Mike Gaines.
Working with Mike Gaines, for Mike Gaines.
Wow.
And it was a great place to start. And again, to work for you, it was a pleasure.
Well,
it was a pleasure. So,
pleasure was mine, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope I wasn't a bad influence on you.
No, not at all. A good influence, in fact. You know, something I learned about you back then, but really didn't know to the extent that I know now, and it's just been a wonderful thing, is that you are a renowned comic artist, known for creating classic characters and creating original ones as well. What really first drew you to being an artist, and especially to the world of comic art?
Well, my mother told me something not too long ago. She said, when I was a kid, she said she could always notice what I was drawing, no matter how, if I was 5 years old, 6 years old. But she said whenever I drew something, she knew what it was. It wasn't like she had to try to decipher it and figure out, well, is that what he's trying to trying to expose or trying to show? But she always knew. So
yeah.
And she was an artist herself, not to the point that I was. I mean, I kind of took it to the stratosphere.
Right.
But she had it in her too. And coming up in the 70s, I was born in 66, but coming up reading comic books, because she kind of introduced me to comic books. She introduced me to reading, period. I love to read. I mean, so she had me reading everything from Doc Seuss to Sesame Street, whatever was available at the time, she wanted me to read it.
Yeah.
And so comic books, I kind of gravitated a lot towards that, particularly Marvel. I've always loved Marvel comics. So.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I would sit there and I would, I'd see the covers and I would try to emulate those and draw them. And that's kind of my love affair. And then you had all the cartoons that were coming on the TV back then. You had Johnny Quest and Spider-Man reruns and Speed Racer. So all that kind of just was a part of my upbringing.
Right.
So yeah.
When I think about my early beginnings with art, I think about my grandmother. And my grandmother, again, much like your situation, she didn't take it to the next level like I have. In my own regard, it was always on phone books, and it was always, her sketches were on phone books and were always on envelopes, opened envelopes. And I looked at it, I was like, man, looking back at it, I was like, she was very talented.
Wow.
And had she, put some real effort and some time into it, she could have been done who knows what.
You never know.
But it's just that little little seed that is planted from special people in our lives like that. That's just makes us want to take things to the next level and do extraordinary things in our own lives. So You're originally from Warrensville Heights, Ohio.
Yep.
How did you grow up there? What was that like? And what about that place really shaped your creativity and the artistic journey that you've been on?
Growing up in Warrensville, which is kind of a suburb of Cleveland, really, a lot of my friends that I hung around with, we were all into the same things, comic books, and this is the 70s, so we spend a lot of time outside too. That's something kids don't do much today.
Right.
But we did a lot of bike riding and playing and just having a ball. But comic books was always in there somewhere. They had movies and things like that. So I mean, was I the most scholastic kid in school? No. But I loved art class. That was my things, and the teachers that I had then were very instrumental. I had a couple of really good art teachers, and they kind of showed me things. They one of the things one of my art teachers told me, his name was Mr. Green. He told me, never take advice from somebody who can't draw better than you. He said that to me because I was working on something one time, and a fellow student was like, "You shouldn't do that. You should do it this way, and you should turn it that way." And he overheard this conversation, and so after the person was done, telling me what I should do, he kind of whispered, "You don't listen to her. You do your thing. You do what she can't."
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me, and I've always remembered that. I always kept that in the back of my mind. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's very interesting. You have created some pretty great original characters.
Thank you.
And one I'm particularly interested in is Ntobendi.
Ntobendi, yeah.
An African woman warrior. She reminds me a lot of Okoye of the Black Panther, to be honest with you.
I've people have said that. People have said that hey, if you make a movie, you should get her to be the actress in the movie. I'm like, okay, I'll keep that in mind.
So how did she really come about? Because I know that she was a creation of yours well before Okoye.
Oh yeah.
How did you dream of this character?
This is about 2005, and I was going through this phase where I was really into African folklore and African art and African mythology, which is rarely touched if you think about it. You hear a lot about Norse mythology, you hear a lot about Greek mythology, but African mythology is really pretty complex and very interesting.
Yeah.
So as I was researching different characters and stories, I came across this one story about this African princess, and her name was Ntobendi. And the story goes that she was looking for this prince, almost like the Prince and the Frog. This prince somehow he was transformed into this creature or something. So it took her love in order to change him back to being a prince again. I thought it was a pretty cool story, but I wanted to tweak it in another direction. So I kind of came up with an idea, figure to kind of work off of, and I just kind of came up with my own design for her. So she's original in the sense that I created the actual look of her,
right?
But the story, the character itself is actually of African mythology.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, let me throw this in there too.
Sure.
While I was doing this research, my wife at the time was telling me that, find something that can, how did she put it? Find something that our daughters could be inspired by. Because I got 4 daughters. At the time I had 4 daughters. One of them was handicapped and she's passed. May she rest in peace. But our other daughters, this is something for them to kind of aspire to a little bit. Not, in an artistic sense, to create your own things and I thought that was a good fit. Let me try this out. And this was, like I said, this was in 2005.
Right, right. I'm inspired by that, and I love that you said it that way because there's been several things I've done in my life
Mm-hmm.
that really were born out of either trying to inspire or create an environment for my kids to thrive. And oftentimes that's in the world of sports.
I noticed that when you interviewed your daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. And whether that's a basketball league,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a 6-year-old daughter and she's in the K-2, that is because I had my girl in mind. And I've done some things in the past the same way for my son, JC, and my other kids. But I really love that you said that, because it's very special when you're in a position to be able to do that for your kids.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And from that, my youngest daughter has really, taken that to a whole nother level herself, because she's become a fashion designer. Matter of fact, this is one of the shirts that she designed based from her company, No Bias.
I love it.
I'm kind of sporting her wear today.
And I've had an opportunity to meet your daughter.
Yes, you have.
And she is an incredible personality, very special, as I've told you before.
Mm-hmm.
When I've had conversations with her, believe it or not, when I was working the self-checkout line at Kroger,
Mm-hmm.
I had a gentleman come through on a regular basis, I would say weekly, maybe a couple times a week. And he approached me on several occasions. And the same thing I'm telling you about your girl is the same thing that he approached and said to me. And I'm very thankful this gentleman felt comfortable enough to do that. He said, I see something special in you. And he knew that self-checkout line, and there's dignity and pride in every job. I'm not saying that, that it's not in that job, but particularly for me, that gentleman knew that something else was in my future. Mm-hmm. And he said that to me. And I felt the same way about your daughter. And she was working at a restaurant, and I had also met her on the campus of IU Kokomo. And I looked at her and I said, there's something special about her. I didn't know what that was at the time. Mm-hmm. And it all made sense when I seen her in the newspaper. This young lady's going to New York and entering the fashion show. And I'm like, that is incredible. God was saying something to me about her.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Into Bende, again, a special character. When you're creating a new character, what does that process look like? Do you start with a story? Do you start with a sketch, or maybe an emotion that you want to express? Is there a way today that you can maybe share that with us?
It'll start with a thought, it could be a thought about maybe even something I've watched recently, a movie, or another comic book, even another book that I might read.
Yeah,
kind of get the inspiration, because in comic books, in a way, it's kind of all variations on a particular theme. Mm-hmm. You characters that you create are sometimes based on other characters that you've seen, and you try to tweak them in a way so that they come out original, Mm-hmm. But it's somebody said, it was an artist named Frank Miller, very popular artist, and he made a comment. He said the one thing that's hard to do in this comic book business is something that Jack Kirby hasn't already touched on.
Yeah.
So, and he has a point, but you still, I come up with ideas based on those things, based on, what I've read, what I've seen, maybe an emotional spark sometimes, but mostly if I see something like, okay, how can I turn that into something that's totally original from my point of view? Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of how Into Benny came about. Right. But it's also based on, things, other characters that I've seen and read. My character Renegade was probably the oldest character that I've ever created. He's based on like Daredevil, Spider-Man, Batman, all those characters that I've read about. So he's kind of like a hodgepodge of all that. Right,
right. Are you able to share with us today and kind of talk through while you're sketching what you're thinking about, if you have anything particularly in mind while you're sketching that give us something.
Give us something.
Yeah.
See, now I'm like a magician now. I'm sharing trade secrets that I shouldn't be sharing. So, but here we go. Like, if I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Do this sketch right here. I'm currently getting ready to start working on a 4th issue company called Big Bang Comics.
Mm-hmm.
I work with the publisher named Gary Carlson, and we kind of co-created this National Guardians book with some characters that were part of the Big Bang universe and other characters that were actually original characters that we kind of implemented into the team to kind of give it that 60s Avengers look,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to sketch out right now, because sometimes I like to do things like if I'm working on a certain project, I try to stay in that mold. You know, so I'll draw like a sketch of that character, and if I'm not, you know. So in this case, I'm going to draw the badge. So what I do is come up with the idea of how I want to present the character, the dynamics of it, and the way I work. And every artist works different, but I use an approach, the circular approach, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people start out, you know, whatever direction that they start from. But if you're going to do comic books is so visual. It's very visual, and it's all about action in a way.
Yeah.
And how you can present that action to capture people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of tricks that artists use is foreshortening. You know, you do things like, you know, you want to put emphasis on the leg being out in the forefront and maybe a hand in the back. This particular character has a shield, and a unique shield at that. It's not a circular shield, it's more of a square with an eagle's head at the top. So what you do is you just kind of play with it a little bit. You get the form of it. And once you get the form, you start to fill in, as I like to say, you fill in the blanks a little bit.
Right. Be more defined with your features.
Right. You get the anatomy down kind of the way you want it.
So what I'm totally captivated by is the fact that in a very short time, and of course this all comes from practice.
Oh, yeah.
As well as just your gift and abilities. Excuse me. But
Bless you.
You have given that character motion, as you described so very well. And much like your mother described, is although I might not know this character well, I could maybe take a few stabs at who it might be based on the action that he's doing, you know? So anybody who might be familiar with this particular character.
Yeah, because he's not a very well-known character because Big Bang is more of an independent company, but there's quite a few people that know who he is.
Right.
So it's not like he doesn't have a fan following. Maybe not as much as, say, what was one character? So the Night Watchman is a very big, popular character with the Big Bang universe. I haven't had a chance to draw him yet. But yeah, this is pretty much the start of it.
It's amazing. And that's something that you could do all night long.
I could. I really could. It wouldn't be nothing for me to do it.
Right.
But see, I also have a weekly.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 9 to 5 job that I go to every day for one,
Right.
and for another, I also have a strip that I do for the Kokomo Tribune here in town that I've been doing now since 2012.
And that is called
Intimbendi.
Intimbendi. Okay.
Of all my characters, Intimbendi is the one character, and it's funny because I have three main characters,
Mm-hmm.
and the three characters, and they've all been published in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Intimbendi, however, is probably the longest running character I've ever had that's been published anywhere.
Mm.
She's actually been published in 3 different newspapers.
Wow.
In Cleveland, Ohio, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then finally here in Kokomo.
Wow. I love that.
So there's definitely something about the character that people seem to like.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a pretty basic character. I mean, she doesn't have any real superpowers. She doesn't have any kind of fancy suit.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't shoot rays, but she's very she's athletic. She's acrobatic.
Yeah.
And she's a warrior.
Yeah. I love that. And you've created some older comics as well. So what draws you to revisit some of those classic figures, and how do you keep them feeling fresh and relevant? As you've showed me here, Thor, and forgive me, this character here is who?
Now these are all Marvel characters, and basically these pieces were all, well, except for that one.
Mm-hmm.
These were commissions that I was asked to do. This one was Thor versus Hercules, based on a Marvel cover, a Marvel Comics cover from 1974, actually.
Okay.
This one was another commission that I did. The figures themselves were actually derived from other artists, Ron Frenz and Jack Kirby, to be quite honest with you. But these are my original pencils.
Right.
And same with that one.
Mm-hmm.
This one here is basically a lot of Jack Kirby's characters from DC. So you've got Marvel characters, got DC characters.
Right. Wow.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did. You did. You
Okay.
Absolutely did. And so that's great. Well, one thing I would love for you to touch on a little bit more is what draws you back to some of these that you might have been inspired by as you were growing up. Do you have, who is your absolute favorite? And I know some of these are drawings based on what other people like, but who would you say, outside of the characters, your original characters, that you really just
like to draw?
You just love to draw.
Thor,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, Cap,
Yeah.
and Black Panther.
Okay.
Yeah. Even at conventions, I get a lot of Spider-Man people on Spider-Man commission or drawing. I've had some unique pieces that I've done for some people. I've done Street Fighter. I've done. What's other I've done a lot of DC characters.
Mm-hmm.
Even did a Penguin once. That was different. So.
I've spoken to you a number of different times over the years about this. And one thing that is absolutely undeniable is your gift and desire to share your gift with other people. And that is very special. It's much like, it reminds me so much of Kobe and what now actually Jordan is trying to do. And I believe
really
Jordan has been inspired by Kobe and watching. So in many people's eyes, Kobe is their GOAT.
Yeah.
But one thing that, and I liked Kobe a lot. I'm always a Jordan.
Yeah, who didn't?
I'm always a Jordan is going to be my greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But and Kobe might have been a second or a third. But one
right.
thing that raised Kobe's in that conversation for me was that he gave back to the game when he was done. He wrote a book. He wrote a children's book.
Sure did.
He took, I can't remember the name of the show now, but he would take the time to talk and share his knowledge of the game with other people
mm-hmm.
and community. And that for me transcends everything that you might have done on the basketball court itself, because that's from the heart, you
True.
know. And so that same thing, you know, kind of shines in you, is you just took the time to show your gift and your skill and your ability right there. And from that, somebody's going to be inspired to maybe pick that up one day.
Yeah, that's great.
And so what does that kind of come from? Where does that come from? Did you see that as an example in someone else?
I did, you know, as a comic book artist, you tend to work a lot by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. I mean, you stay pretty focused, especially if you got a deadline to meet. That
Yeah.
that always plays a big part of it. But showing people how I do what I do,
Mm-hmm.
that's never really bothered me very much. I have always kind of welcomed it in a way.
Yeah.
When I go to conventions, and if somebody asks me, hey, can you do such and such, and I'll say sure, you know, and you know, they pop the money down, and I go at it.
Yeah.
And so while I'm working at it, you know, people come by and they're looking, and do you mind if I said no, not at all. You know, if it inspires somebody, then that's great. We need people to be inspired.
Yep.
You know, people should be inspired. But if there's nothing else, I think that is a great communicator between people. That's art and music.
Yeah.
Those are two. And religion, you know, and I'm a religious person. I know that you're a religious person.
Yeah.
But religion has a tendency, people form their own opinions and their own, you know, feelings about it. And it doesn't always jive with somebody else, and that causes conflict, and before you know it, you're in a big old argument. But when it comes down to art and music, either you love it or you hate it. But people they tend to gravitate towards these things, and it unifies people.
Yeah.
It unifies people. It makes people want to you know, hey, maybe I can try that. Well, he's doing that way. I should try that. And that brings about inspiration.
Yeah.
And motivation. So
absolutely.
If I can be any kind of any kind of beacon for inspiration for somebody, then so be it. That's my calling to do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't shy away from it. There's a an art gallery in Dayton, Ohio, and they've asked me to come actually teach a class. And I've taught a class a couple of times. I've taught a couple of classes here in Kokomo. It's been years since I've done it, but every now and again I'll do it. It's a little nerving, but I do it. You know?
There are many young people who may want to pick up their pencil, but they struggle with confidence and consistency. What is that thing that you could offer them to kind of help them through that battle?
Never give up. Never give up.
Yeah.
Don't be discouraged. People say, boy, you make that look so easy. That's because I've been doing it for forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been doing this since I was 5 years old, you know, drawing like this and reading comic, and not just reading them. One of my friends told me, one of my good friends, Owen, he said, man, you just don't look at these books, do you? You study these things. I said, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm looking at every nuance and everything that Jack Kirby laid down, everything that Sal Buscema laid down, everything that Ron Friends does to this day.
Yeah.
You know, and those are my inspirations. Those are the guys that keep me, they keep me humble, because I try not to get a big head from this, because it's so easy to do, and I'm not near as good as those guys. You know, I'm good in my own right, but I could always be better, and I work towards that.
Yeah.
So that's if my advice to anybody is stay inspired, but you know, just keep practicing.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Don't be discouraged. It'll come.
Yeah. How do you find that you keep your balance to your true artistic roots while also adapting to some of the more modern trends and some of the audiences today? Because over time, as you can imagine, there are generations that come along that want to see maybe something fresh, something new, different style. How do you continue to adapt to those things?
I think it's more instinctive with me.
Mm.
I mean, it's not something I really go
Because you
out.
pay attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I read another one of my favorite artists who passed away recently. His name is George Perez.
Mm.
And I remember reading something about George, and he said that he went through phases coming up as an artist. He went through these phases where first it was maybe Jack Kirby, then it was John Byrne, and then Frank Miller, which actually he kind of came up with those guys.
Mm.
But he went through phases of his art and his inspirations.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much the same way as a kid. You know, I was looking at certain things and seeing how this artist did this artist did that. And then I gravitated away from comic books because there was so much going on in the 80s that, you know, we had magazines like Heavy Metal that I used to read a lot.
Mm.
I would look at artists from other countries that were doing neat stuff. There was an artist back in the 80s named Pat Nagel.
Mm.
Died real young too, but he had this Art Deco style. And this was in the 80s.
Wow.
But his style was very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of an instinctive thing. You know, you see, you kind of see what's current, but again, it's about staying in your lane because sometimes you can get off track, do something that's like,
yeah,
you know, and then and I've done that a few times. Give you a good example: the '90s, the early '90s, you had Image Comics. And you had, you know, guys like Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, all those guys that came from Marvel, did their own thing, started their own company, and everybody wanted to draw like those guys. Everybody, you know, everybody went to ink like Scott Williams, and they wanted to draw like McFarlane. And I kind of got into that little mold too. You know, you did the cross hatching and all that kind of neat stuff. They had this one technique where you do this cross hatching and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it was a popular thing.
Yeah.
But as styles do, they come and they go.
Yeah. And what are you left with?
Right. And so you're left, okay, so what are you going to do next? This style here, this is more of a classic Silver Age, Bronze Age style that because this is what I grew up with. You know, this is a style, and because of that, I always stick with this style because I'm still learning this style because there's so much of it. There's so much richness in it to learn.
Yeah.
And those guys, they didn't have the kind of maybe not inspiration, but they didn't have the things that we have today. We can look back at their work. They looked at newspapers and magazines mostly. You know, that's because, you know, they didn't have. There was no internet back then. There was no cell phones. You couldn't just pull up this picture and, you know. So it was a big difference back then.
Yeah.
As opposed to now where you have all these different things that you can look at and say, hey, I can take from that, or I can take from that, and I can take from this, and culminate into something that's really unique. But again, I like this style. So I kind of tend to stick with this a little bit.
Yeah.
And people seem to like it because there's a lot of people that do like this style. They appreciate it because it is technically it's a little bit more difficult to do. And comic books as a whole is very difficult to do. People think about it as, well, it's just, you know, drawings on paper, but hey, a lot of work goes into that.
Yeah.
I mean, you got guys that I read about, you know, my heroes, you know, like Jack Kirby and even Sal Buscema. Those guys would do, you know, 3 and 4 pages of art a day. A day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's unheard of now. I mean, artists today, if they're lucky to do 3 or 4 pages in a week, 2 weeks, you know, they're doing pretty good. But to do 3 or 4 pages a day,
right?
It's
That's
a lot.
special.
But see, yeah, that's special. That's also insane.
Yeah.
Because those guys, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they did. That's how they worked, and they had families and children,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all they did. And so they had to pump that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. That's wonderful. And I'm happy to know that's your style, and you love that, because I'm very nostalgic. I love nostalgia, and the special thing about your artwork is that I'm not really into comics. I do have an appreciation. I have read them growing up as a kid and even as an adult. But I wouldn't know, picking up your work, that it wasn't from the 60s era. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love those historic, tangible things that I can hold in my hand and say, wow, this thing was from the 1800s or the early 20th century. And that's what I love. And so when I pick up your work, I could feel like that is something from that time frame, even though you just created it. Yes. So I very much have an appreciation for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what's next? Any upcoming projects, characters, collaborations?
Man, where do I start?
What should we expect? Yeah.
Where do I start? Well, like I said earlier, I'm going to be working on a 4th National Guardians book, for one. Still doing the strip for another, because I've got and I've got people that work with me too. You know, it's not just me working on these things. I've got different inkers that I work with. A guy named Mike Matthew that I've known for a few good years now. He's inked some of the stuff right here.
Wow.
He's a joy to work with. Another friend of mine that I've known for many years, Gary Yap, who's an animator. Actually, he's worked on King of the Hill. He's worked on The Simpsons. Yeah, this he's something. And so he inks the strip with me. So between those two things, commission work, though that's enough to keep me busy right there.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing a show at the end of November in Fort Wayne. I've got a commission I've got to do for a gentleman that's actually sells books up there. So I've got that to look forward to getting done.
That's wonderful.
So I keep myself a little busy.
Well, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, man.
I'm super thankful for the chance to sit down with you. This may not be the last one.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more to share, new projects, just new conversations to be had. So, again, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for reaching out like you did.
Absolutely.
Well, when you first told me about it, I was like, wow, the guy wants to interview me. I ain't all that great. So it's very nice, special. and I hope the podcast does well for you.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll get my daughter in here too.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the JC Barnett podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked ideas, inspired action, and reminded you of the power of community and mentorship. This episode was brought to you by the JC Barnett School of Jump Shooting, the Lady Stars Basketball Organization, and JC Barnett Jr., dedicated to helping young people grow in skill, confidence, and in character. Don't forget, subscribe, share, and join us next time for more stories about empowerment, leadership, and life lessons. Until then, I'm JC Barnett. Thanks for tuning in.